Today I'm going to do a tuck handstand follow along. So this is going to be for any level, so if you're still working against the wall, I'm going to show drills for that. I'm also going to show drills for freestanding. So let's jump in and start warming up. Now the tuck handstand is very demanding mobility wise, so a good warm up is really important to open up through the upper back, the thoracic, so the upper part of the spine, through the hips. So imagine it's like a deep squat position for the hip position. We want to open up the shoulders as much as possible. So I'm just starting on the foam roller. So I'm just rolling up and down, just seeing how that feels. Really focusing on where the ribs are. I'm now going to extend the arms out, make it a little bit more challenging. So I'm going to try and have my biceps closer to my ears, have the arms straight. I'm going to slowly take the hips down towards the floor. As I also try and take the hands down towards the floor, I'm trying to keep hold of my low back, so I don't want to arch through the low back. No, I'm pretty tight through there anyway, so it's not really a limitation for me. But if you have a very open, flexible low back that likes to go into extension, just watch the shoulder and the thoracic upper back flexibility work, that you don't dump into your low back. Then I'm going to be a little bit more targeted with that, so I'm going to start on the bottom rib. I'm going to bend the knees, make sure the heels and the butt are pushed hard into the floor. I'm going to hold onto the head. I'm going to extend as much as I can with the roller on the lower rib. I'm going to open and close there, 1 to 2 repetitions, and I'm going to move down, do exactly the same thing but higher up on the back. Imagine you're moving one segment of your spine at a time, slowly making the way up the back. Keep going until you get to a point where it feels like it doesn't do much because you're running out of spine, and then roll over that area again. Now for the hips, I'm just going to go into a twisted pigeon position. So I'm going to have my legs straight, so start in a pike position, take the left leg over the right, bring the heel up close to the hip, bend the bottom leg. Now here we have a couple of options. We can take the left shoulder to the left knee and the right shoulder to the left ankle, and then pull the chest towards the shin, or I can just stay up in more of a yoga twist position there. But you just want to be feeling this in the left butt cheek. And we could do repetitions of going in and out of the stretch, or you could do a hold there. Then I'm going to swap over, do the same on the other side. Now right side tends to be tighter for me. So sit in that pike position again, take the right leg over the left, bend the left leg, either go into that right shoulder to right knee, left shoulder to right ankle. Some repetitions or time in that position, or I could go up, twist into that position. But again, make sure you're feeling it in that right butt cheek. Then I'm just going to stand up and go into a forward fold position, so taking elbows down towards the floor. Now if you're comfortable here, you could add some bounces. So I'm just pulling the elbows, trying to get them as close to the toes as I can, trying to lengthen through the low back, the hamstrings and the calves. I'm going to go a little bit wider with the feet, pull down into a squat position, and then go in and out of a squat, trying to lengthen the spine and the hamstrings in the top position, trying to take the elbows towards the floor. And then when I go into the squat, pull the hip down towards the floor, but I'm also trying to keep the elbows down as much as I can in that position, and just do reps in and out of that position. Now I'm just going to do a standard handstand warm up for the hands and wrists. So spread the fingers, push the floor away, do some circles. If that feels okay, I'm just going to start to peel the hands up and down different directions. Get through the knuckles, through the fingers, through the palms. Then I'm going to come down onto hands and knees. I'm going to push my toes hard into the floor. I'm going to make sure my hip stays on top of my knees. I'm going to walk the hands out as far as I can without the hip coming away. Looking at the fingers, I'm going to go up onto fingertips. I'm going to tuck the tail under, so go into a posterior tilt, and then while holding onto that positioning, I'm going to take the chest down towards the floor. I'm still looking at the fingers, I'm still keeping the toes pushed into the floor, I'm still trying to maintain that posterior tilt, so not arching through the low back. Around 20 to 30 seconds in this position should be uncomfortable. If it's not, try and go into a stronger posterior tilt, bring the hands together a little bit more, and then slowly come back out. And then I'm going to warm my handstand up. Now this could be a freestanding handstand if you're confident, strong, and have the balance to do that. We want to be doing around a 30 to 60 second hold, just to warm up and build a little bit of time and conditioning on the shoulders and the hands. Now if you don't have freestanding, we can do exactly the same, but you could go chest to wall. So in that position, so only toes touching, make sure that everything's in a line. Again, 30 to 60 seconds, and then we can come back down. Now we can do a little bit of a self-assessment and see where we're at in terms of our tuck handstand. Now that's either going to be freestanding or against the wall. If you fall over more than twice in a freestanding handstand, then do it up against the wall, just because we want to look and concentrate on technique of the tuck handstand. This isn't about lots of repetitions of trying to catch the handstand. So if we're doing freestanding, all I'm going to do is kick up to my position, to my home straight position, and then I'm going to come down to my tuck handstand. Now notice when I go into my tuck handstand, I'm pulling down with my upper leg, and then I'm sitting into the position. What I'm not doing is pulling down with the lower leg, so bending the knees and not closing the hips. This is really common, especially if you're new to tuck handstands. We want to get those upper leg, the thighs, sitting into the handstand, and that pulls the feet down. We don't want the feet pushing us down into a tuck. So once I'm in my tuck position, I'm just going to hold it there for 10 seconds. And then I'm going to come back out, and then I'm going to have a look at that video. Now if I can't do the freestanding version, we'll do exactly the same but up against the wall. Now I'm going to go back to wall because it's less demanding than the chest tool to start with. So we're going to go into that position, heels against the wall. I'm going to slowly bring the legs down, taking the butt back towards the wall. Now ideally here the butt would touch. I just go to wherever I feel comfortable, hold for that 10 seconds. And then go back to that home straight position. Whoop, the wall kicked me off there. And then show control to come back out. So then have a look at your video and see what your tuck looks like. So we can look at a couple of things. We can look at the depth of the tuck. So how far do the knees go down? We can look at if there's one segment between the hip and the hands. So ideally we want to have one line. Now that line's probably not going to be straight. It might have a curve to it, especially if you're flexible, where the hips sit back a little bit further and then you're open through the low back, through the mid back, through the upper back to the hands. Now that's the ideal position for most people, unless they go really deep in the tuck. If they go really deep in the tuck, that will start to flatten out. You'll have more of a rounding through the back, but the shoulders ideally will still be open. Now what we want to try and avoid, now this can happen if you're flexible or if you're not flexible, and if you're super tight, you'll start to get a zigzag line. So you could get the low back that's really flexible and an upper back that doesn't want to move, or you could have someone that's super tight and the shoulders are closed, which I can demonstrate, but I can't demonstrate the over flexible one because I'm not. So the closed shoulder position might look like this. So now we don't have one line, we have two lines. We have hands to shoulders and shoulders to hips. Ideally, we want to have one line that goes from hands to hips. It might not be the dead straight line, but it's not zigzagged and has sharp points. The sharp points are going to make it harder to hold, and points where we start to collapse. Now probably the best exercise to condition the position, both strength and flexibility, is the chest to wall hold position. Now with the hold position, the goal here is to get the upper leg, so the thigh, parallel with the floor, because that's where the femur, the knee to the hip bone, is going to create the biggest challenge from a flexibility point of view. So if I turn it upside down, and again, I'd video from the side so you can compare your setup position and check you're in the right place, or if you've got someone there to tell you whether your upper leg is parallel with the floor. So that feels about right for me, but I'm not going to know until I check the video. So there, now in that position, the wall's trying to push me this way, and I'm having to push open with my upper traps and my shoulders to try and get into more of an open position there. Now it is much easier if I tuck the head, but I want to be looking down to the hands a lot of the time because that's where I'm going to be in my handstand, and it is definitely more demanding. Now I can wind that position up by taking the hands closer to the wall, but if that causes my shoulders to go in front of my hands, I want to make it slightly easier. So it's tricky to find that ideal position, and you might have to go up and down a few times or put some markers down for your hands to find where you hold a good position, but it's still working and challenging to hold for around 15 to 20 seconds. Now I would still do this drill even if you have the freestanding version. It's actually easier to hold a freestanding tuck handstand than it is to do a chest to wall handstand once you have the balance. So if you want to improve your position, do the mobility work against the wall and then see the results in your freestanding version. Now let's look at transitions from the straight to the tuck, and this can be done in 3 different ways. We can do it chest to wall, we can do it back to wall, and we can do it freestanding. So let's start with the freestanding version. So think here we have 2 home positions. We have the straight home position, so our best possible position there, and then we have our tuck position, that's home position number 2. Then we're going to go from that home position number 2 back to home position 1. Now ideally when we go between them, we return to a position for 1 and for 2 that is the best position we can get to. What we don't want to happen is to go back to our straight and look like this, or look like this,
that's like an in-between a tuck and a straight. We want to get back to our straight, and then when we come down to the tuck, we want it to look as good as our tuck can, and then return back to our straight. So we're looking for repetition of our 2 home positions and then a clean transition between the 2. And then once you have that, you can go for 5 repetitions, you can go for 10 repetitions. To consistently hit 10 repetitions in that is very challenging, but a good level to aim for. Now back to what was very similar. So we have that home position with the heels lightly touching, and then we have the second home position with the butt touching, and then we go back again. Now the tricky bit with this one is not taking the hips to the wall too early, or keeping the feet against the wall as we come down. So what I want to do is bring the butt to the wall as I come down, heels come off and I go into my tuck, and then when I go back up, my heels touch the wall and the butt comes off early enough. So the timing is correct and very similar to the freestanding version. Now remember, with these, you're only going to the depth that you can manage in the tuck. So it could be like a mini tuck position, and that's both for the freestanding or the wall version. So I could be going from here to here, and then back again, if that's as deep as my tuck is. So it might be there and back again, or if I'm more flexible, more confident in the position, it might be deeper before I go back. So stick with the current level you have in the straight and the tuck positions. Now the other wall version is chest to wall. Now the issue with the chest to wall is if you've got bare feet and bricks, we need to be careful that we don't lose some toenails or take the skin off our shins. So the ideal setup would be a smooth wall with socks on, but whichever way you do it, the shins should be nice and light on the wall. They shouldn't be heavy. So we set up like the chest to wall holds, but now I don't hold the bottom position. I just come down and then go back up. Now that could go back up to freestanding like I just done there, or you could stay against the wall trying to keep the shoulders back and then go back up. I'm going to lose skin if I carry on with reps against the wall here, but that is a great version if you do have that smooth wall. And then what I'd recommend you do at the end of each session is go back into your tuck handstand, video again from the side, and we're going to do a comparison to see how our tuck handstand looks now compared to that initial position. And you could be comparing your static holds, or if you're working on your transitions, compare the range of motion and the quality of the movement up and down. You'll find handstand programs and more follow-along videos in my app. Link is down in the description. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions, and I'll speak to you next time. Thanks, guys.